Hi, Dina here tonight. Who else would it be, right? So tonight I want to talk about the concept of fate versus free will and what that means to me. Obviously I am, not an expert. It's something I have trouble describing fully, and it would probably seem like it would make more sense if I wrote out what I wanted to say first, but I feel like that doesn't work for me. For whatever reason, I seem to be better just off the cuff. So, and I do need a prop, so I'm going to shuffle tarot cards while I'm doing this because we are going to do a reading after this. It's a weird night here. I live in the northeastern portion of Pennsylvania, and it is snowing even though it's November, and it's quite a lot of snow. So my day was kind of cut short today, and I have some cool astrological stuff happening that has me just absolutely wired. So seems like as good of a time as any to tackle this. And then the other day we said in our reading that I think that I really do need to have cards that are just for reading for other people, and it so happens that I have backups of all my favorite decks. It is not I am a freak. I'm not saying that I'm not, but it's not because I'm a freak. It's just because you see how I shuffle. If you watch these videos, you see that I shuffle this way. And my mom used to date someone who had lots of fun little axioms, and one of them was he used to say that I shuffled the tits off the queen. Nice, right? Classy. But I do. Like my cards get dog-eared, and they get dog-eared super quickly. So I always have a backup. So I think that what needs to happen is I need to use the backups, that are just for once I bust mine. That's what we're going to use for readings for other people moving forward. So this is a new deck, and I do want to get a little broken in, but I will never use this for myself. It's just going to happen. All right, so fate versus free will. It was something that I just kind of felt like was reasonable to talk about, based on how I was saying in our last two readings that we did, how everything was so subject to change because the outcome was, it was 7 months out in the future, and why would that be the case? And then I talk a lot about astrology, and I was saying how I have all this astrological stuff happening, and why does any of that matter, right? So, I grew up very much reading astrology books all the time. My mom was a little too young to be a child in the 70s, but all the Linda Goodman, Parker's Astrology, all that stuff was all over the house. And I read it as a child, along with medical journals, which is why I thought I had prostate cancer when I was 7. My Venus is in Virgo. I am a hypochondriac. So I digress. Just the same, I really grew up on that, and none of them really got into why astrology worked. It was as above, so below was the most you could get out of it. But it's can we change it? Can we not change it? Why are tarot cards subject to change if everything is predestined? It's tricky, right? It's a sticky subject. And then as time went by, my mom got more into Vedic astrology, and they are so hardcore fated. You got something Rahu's in the wrong, or Ketu or whatever one, you're in the wrong spot, you're just fucked for good. That's it, all your shit's broken. I'm sorry, you're gonna get killed by, a swindler on a camel, and that's it, unless you can appease the planets, right? Okay, so the funny thing is, though, that's kind of what made it click for me. So you tie it all together, right? Why would appeasing a planet do anything? That seems foolish, does it not? And at the same time, why would something be in someone's chart? So my husband, for example, there were other people born that day. There are other people born at the exact same time he was born. I don't think for a second that they all died right when he died. But I do think that in that same similar time frame, something pivotal happened to them. And this is how I think free will works versus fate. I think that there's a lot of things that can happen. I think that everything is potential. Everything is like that ace we talked about the other day, right? I think we're all little shards of God. I think that to some extent we set this up. So like that thoughts are things notion, they are. I mean, you know, it's the idea that you can only that something can only affect you if you're vibrating on the same level as it, right? So let's say that that's the case, that, you know, I can only get hit by a truck if I'm vibrating on that same level as someone who gets hit by a truck. I mean, that's an extreme example, but let's just say that that's the case. Well, maybe I just needed my life to change fundamentally in some real major frickin' way, right? And it's so bad that the only thing that can change it is me getting hit by a truck. So there's a lot of psychics and intuitives that believe that we have exit points, right? So at that point, it would be our choice, not consciously at a higher level or, you know, at a collective choice where we would say, well, is this so fucked that I would just rather peace out right now and start again? Maybe I should just start over. Done. Bye. Sorry, I love you. I'm out. You'd be better without me, I think, you know, which is not true, but I get that though. And that is what I think it is. But if you think you have the rally in you, you don't die. You get to start again. And that's how I think fate versus free will works. I think that we have free will in the sense that we can change. First of all, perception is almost everything. You know, it's like the other day I got in the shower and I was in a really good mood and this camel cricket jumped out of the damn drain on me and I twisted my ankle and I was in a really good mood, so I thought it was hysterical. If that happened on a day when I was really sad, I would have been like, fuck my life, this camel cricket just attacked me, I twisted my ankle, motherfucker. Like, I would have been really fucking sad and pissed off about it, but I wasn't. It was fine because I thought it was funny, you know? So that's something, you know? But beyond that, I really do think that's the other side of it. I think that we have key factors that we cannot change. I think that if there is someone that we have, before we came here, we said, me and you, babe, this is it, that's happening. You're meeting that person, and nothing's gonna change that. You can fill your time in between with lots of other distractions if you want to, but I think that if you set that up ahead of time, that's happening, you know, or if you have some kind of bond, that's happening. I think that, you know, if you've lived a full life, you have a date, you're like a little guitar string and it's pinned on the ends. There's a point you're born and there's a point you die, and that's it. And you can only vibrate to whatever you're tuned to, you know, and you can make the most of it or the worst of it, but there are certain pivotal things that I don't think you can change. The mundane shit though, I do think you can change. When Jupiter transits your first house, which it's transiting mine right now, I think you could get fat or you could be in the best shape of your life. I think you have a choice. I think that is a choice. That's a choice, because it ultimately, only person it matters to is you, and that is how I think things work. I think there is just this cosmic probability soup. You know, I love quantum physics and whatever, so I think that, you know, there's all these little strings, you know, and it all exists at once, but we experience one version of it. And whatever version we experience is whatever we're vibrating on. So I don't think that there was a scenario where, unfortunately, I really don't think there was a scenario where I wasn't gonna lose my husband. Unless I was just never with him at all, maybe. I mean, I think he still would have died, but I wouldn't have had to experience that loss. I'm so grateful for it though, because I got all the love that came before the loss. So I'm cool with that. But that is what I feel is the case. Like, I don't think he could have changed any other way. The only way that he could have changed was to peace out. And I tend to be a little grief girl. I lost my dad really young. I lost a lot of people, and this was the one that got me the most, but it also put me back to all of the things that I was really in love with when I was younger, before I lost my dad. I loved quantum physics, I loved tarot cards, I loved astrology, I was religious, I was spiritual, I meditated, I contemplated all of these things, and I stopped when my father died when I was 19, because that void that you get sometimes when you get into like deep meditation, that second where you're like, holy shit, there is nothing. That at 19, I wasn't capable of processing the idea that that void might mean that my dad was just gone. And I stopped everything. And I started it all back up 2 years ago. So, you know, I think that maybe for me, if I had not backed away and not been a child when I was a child, you know what I mean? Like if I had processed it differently the first time, you know, or if any of those subsequent losses put me back to a point where I got back into this, maybe my babe wouldn't have been in my life in the first place. You know, maybe I wouldn't have had to have this experience again. But, you know, I mean, if there was some way that he could still be here, obviously that would be amazing. But I don't think that that's what he wanted. And so that this is where I think fate versus free will comes in anyway. I think that, you know, the potential is there for a lot of things in our natal charts. And I also think that that's where that whole Vedic astrology thing comes from, where we're going to appease the gods. You know, you're going to wear red to make Saturn happy, or not Saturn, Mars, I'm sorry. I don't know, what would you wear to make Saturn happy? Black, probably. You just flagellate yourself as you walk around. You know, I get it. It's just, I mean, and they've been doing that for like longer than we've been a country, appeasing the planets. And so if that's the case, then, you know, maybe they see some results with that. But if they do, I would have to say that it would be because their mindset changed in order to try to take the lesson of whatever that was on. Can you hear the sleet? It's fun when it's, you know, at the beginning of the year. 3 months from now, it's not going to be fun anymore. It's, you know, I feel like that's what that is. That it's like they're trying to process that lesson in a different way, and they're just doing it with ritual, right? Like we do anything with ritual. A prayer, you go light a candle in a church, you stomp around a fire outside and talk to the directions, you know, and light sage. It's all the same. It's all ritual. We're all tapping into some kind of communal energy that exists, and we're changing our vibration when we do that. So like Venus is turning direct tonight. It's been retrograde for a couple weeks now. I'm a Libra. I feel like that affects me pretty heavily. It only happens once every year and a half. I feel like that's pivotal. I'm going to write down some intentions for myself, for things that I care about. There are people who, you know, where their Venus affects them, they care primarily about money. I'm not one of those people. I'm like all about love, baby. And so like I'm totally going to write some intentions down and focus that. But I don't think for a second that it's because like a god or the universe in that sense that we tend to think about it is going to help me. I think it's because writing that down actualizes it somehow by getting me on the same vibration as what I'm asking for, and kind of almost like attunes me with my higher power. And that's why if you want something that's ridiculous and bad for you, it's not going to happen no matter what it is. It just isn't. Like, you know, if you want this thing that's just terrible for you, you could just bash your head against the wall for ages and ages and ages. And unless you're supposed to experience something terrible, you're not going to experience it. And when I say supposed to, I do think you are pulling your own strings. It's just that I think you put those strings where they were before you were born. You know, I think there's like a higher you that's on another plane, and that you is me, and that you is that guy over there. It's Bob, it's Joe. We're all the same, and we kind of set this up, and so it's like we're puppets, but we also have free will, just not the way we think we do. Does this make any sense at all? I did have a little wine. Did I tell you it's snowing here? No, I don't know. So, I mean, anyway, this is why I think that things work the way I do. So when we're talking about major, pivotal life shit, like getting, like, really, like, if you're gonna marry somebody and be married to that person for, like, the rest of your damn life, or you're gonna have a kid, or someone's gonna die, like, I feel like that's not gonna change in a card reading. That's gonna be the same. But something that's like, you know, how's my job gonna be? That can change. That's not something you're gonna think about on your deathbed, is what was my job like in January of 2019? You know, I don't think that's one of those things that are pinned. I think that's a matter of perception, and that's a matter of your vibration. If you are in a place where you're stagnating, you know, and you need a change, things are gonna suck. They're gonna suck real bad until you change them. And if you refuse to change them, then you're gonna get some kind of tower type bullshit that's gonna change it for you. Unless, you know, you're just, you know, it's your lesson to be miserable for some reason, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think any of us are supposed to be miserable. I think the point is to try to transcend whatever the hell we set up for ourselves in whatever stinking way that we can. So, you know, you change your vibration, you change your life, all of that nonsense, but it's valid. It is. It's just that, I mean, I don't think that you like that Slumdog Millionaire shit. Like, that's not just a matter of, that's not just me, that's not positive thinking. I'm very privileged. I'm a little white blonde girl who grew up middle class, you know, straight, Catholic. Like, I won the lottery when American shit. I mean, I won the lottery when I was born, and I'm well aware of that. So no amount of positive thinking is gonna get some poor child out of a slum in, you know, Venezuela or some shit. Like, I'm sorry, it's not, you know, and that is, I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a lesson that we set up. I don't know if it's the luck of the draw. I don't know. I'm inclined to say that we choose that for some reason. The thing is, I see a lot of, I mean, just in what I do all day, I see a lot of rich, spoiled people who are miserable as shit. So it's all relative, really. And I would take a life filled with as much bliss as I could get if somebody gave me the choice. So, you know, I mean, that's where I am. But that is how I see fate anyway. And it is why I think that things are subject to change in card readings that are far off for things that are more mundane, things that aren't going to impact your life in a gigantic way. It's, you know, it's that, like, is the cat alive or dead, right? The Schrodinger's cat thing. It's like, it's either one, right? Like, one probability strain is what actualizes, and that's what we end up with. But there's all these other factors. And if it's major, I think it's going to be what it is. And it could be positive, or it could be, you know, like, it could be best case scenario, but this still sucks, or oh my God, this is horrifying, Jesus, this couldn't get any possibly, you know, like, it's gonna be worse at all. But I still don't think that the actual crux of it's gonna change if it's one of those things. If it's like one of your life lessons or one of those most pivotal moments, that I don't see that changing, to be completely honest. I don't think any amount of learning from my mistakes is gonna change whether or not I was supposed to have kids, or whether or not I don't think any of that is subject to change. I think what's subject to change is whether or not I have a boyfriend right now. Who gives a shit, right? I mean, that shit's subject to change. You know, like, did I have a nice week at work? Who cares? That's subject to change. That's a matter of my vibration and my perspective. Did I get a nice parking spot, or did I have to step into a puddle in my new shoes? That shit, that's all your vibration. Those things, though, that ultimately add up to make you who you are, I don't think you can change the things. I just think you can change who you are, or how you let the things affect you. You can change the person you become because of the things. You can let them defeat you, and you can be like, you can just lay down in the mud and, you know, drink bottles of this. I was there. I mean, I've been there. You know, but you can, right? Like you can do one or you can do the other, but you're still probably going to die at roughly the same age, and you're probably going to have roughly the same pivotal experiences in your life. It's just, you know, in one scenario, you're gonna look like Kathleen Turner wearing really bad shoes, and in the other scenario, you know, maybe you'll be healthy and have had a lot of fun. I'm so sorry I said that. That was mean. I shouldn't have said that. Can I edit this? How do I edit? I don't want to say anything bad about anybody. That was terrible. It looked like, I don't know, she drank a lot. That's all I mean by that. That was terrible. Well, nobody watches this anyway, right? If anybody starts watching this, I'm going to edit that out because that is awful. Shit. Well, all right. That's my fate versus free will talk for tonight. So I shuffled that. These queens are like smaller than me now. They're like lower than an A cup. So we're gonna pause this, and then we're gonna do a reading for our friend who is in a real shitty spot, and that is gonna be the rest of our night. All right, so there's your fate versus free will. I ended it with something negative and terrible, like a bitch. All right, good night.